In the middle of the roughest ocean on the planet, surrounded by thousands of kilometers of salt water, there hides an ancient jungle. A forest that is forever green, often shrouded in mist. It scales the slopes of old volcanoes to trap water carried in the clouds. This dew-drenched jungle clings to the mountains and volcanoes on these small islands, constantly pummeled by the sea winds. These are the oldest rainforests on Earth, the remnants of a lost world. Today, they're inhabited by some of the strangest and most elusive of creatures. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, strange laurel forests extend across a handful of remote, scattered islands. The Azores, Madeira, and the Canary Islands are part of a region known as Macaronesia, the Happy Islands. The Canary Islands, together with the rest of Macaronesia, are more than 15 million years old. All of them are volcanic in origin, and none have ever been joined to any continent. They were born in the solitude of the ocean and have remained isolated and lonely forever. When these islands emerged from the sea as a result of volcanic eruptions, Europe, North Africa, and much of the rest of the planet was blanketed with an enigmatic subtropical rainforest. Lost in the midst of the seas, Madeira, the Azores, and the Canary Islands were, at that time, nothing more than a handful of tiny volcanic rocks, beaten by the sun and lashed by wind, sea, and rain. But it was not long before the 20-million-year-old forest of the mainland would conquer these remote Atlantic islands. 15 million years ago, ocean currents and animals carried seeds from the major continents, arriving by chance on these small islands far from their native shores. And this was the birth of the laurel forests, lost within the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean. While glaciation was changing the climate of Europe and North Africa became a desert, the forests in the Azores, Madeira, and the Canary Islands stood strong. In fact, the laurel forest is considered a fossil forest. Here, about 25 species of trees that have barely changed in all that time survive to this day. It is a window into the Tertiary period, A trip back to the landscapes that thrived on the planet 20 million years ago. But how is it that they endured on these islands? What allowed them not only to survive, but to flourish in such remote places? The answer is in the wind and the sea. The laurel forest, which survives as a kind of botanical relic, clinging to the volcanic escarpments of the Atlantic Islands, owes its existence to the trade winds that cross the Atlantic Ocean. Winds and ocean each bring the moisture and the correct temperature the forest needs to survive. As the northwest trade winds cross the ocean, they collect moisture from the surface of the sea and carry it with them. These relentless winds are the airborne highways of the shearwaters, skimming the waves in search of fish and squid. These seabirds nest and breed on the loneliest islets and islands of the Canaries, such as the Chinijo archipelago, where they land under the cover of night. Tens of thousands of shearwaters nest on ledges and in the nooks and cracks of the volcanic rock. They find their young in the darkness, bringing them a feast of fresh fish. The trade winds also push the birds further out to sea. They're responsible for the westernmost colony of Eleonora's falcon, found on the island of Alegranza. Eleonora's falcon parents feed their chicks by hunting small migrating birds blown off course by the trade winds. These sea hawks make use of air currents to climb hundreds or even thousands of meters in search of food. The same wind that keeps the hawk airborne crashes into the islands, loaded with moisture at altitudes of between 400 and 1,200 meters. Wet and cool, these winds batter the volcanoes of the Canaries without mercy. And it is just the area where the winds make landfall that's the territory of the laurel. With humidity close to 80% and annual temperatures between 15 and 19 degrees centigrade, the conditions are perfect for this primeval forest to thrive. It is precisely this wind that millions of years ago blew insects and birds to these lonely and silent forests. As a result of their isolation, new animal species originated there. On remote islands, far from any continental influence, the number of endemic species is very high. This is the case of the Canary Islands. Plants and animals that colonize remote islands tend to differentiate rapidly. A good example of this differentiating phenomenon is the European chaffinch, which has, since arriving on the Canary Islands over 1 million years ago, split into 3 subspecies, each with a very different appearance. Although far from the tropics, this jungle shares many similarities with tropical rainforests, such as the density of its foliage that barely lets the sunlight pass. These trees grow to between 15 and 25 meters high. The forest floor below, as well as the branches and trunks of the trees, are draped with lichens and mosses. The birds that inhabit the tranquil laurel forest, like finches and robins, have a generous, velvety territory in which to make their nests hidden from view. These small birds are used to the frequent rains that lash the laurel forest. But here, there is another kind of rain, one that doesn't fall from the sky. The unassuming carpet of mosses and lichens that the robins visit play a role of vital importance for the laurel forest. It is responsible for trapping moisture from the clouds, a phenomenon known as horizontal rain. The great quantities of water carried by the winds that crash into the islands do not only fall as rain. It is also trapped molecule by molecule by the lichens and mosses that cover the forest. The effectiveness of this process is such that it makes available 3 times the amount of water that falls as rain throughout the year. The importance of this horizontal rain is most significant in summer, when almost 100% of the water that sustains the laurel forest comes from what the mosses and lichens capture. Thanks to these humble plants, streams keep bubbling and puddles where Bolly's pigeons drink and bathe are maintained. Bolly's pigeons are unique to the Canary Island laurel forests. They are shy and elusive birds, and almost the only time they can be observed is when they come to drink at one of the few puddles that survive the summer drought. These birds rarely leave the forests. They feed, breed, and hide among the branches. In this lost world, everything is connected. It was the wind that brought everything to these happy islands, and plants and animals are closely linked. Some flowers, such as this endemic foxglove, depend on the canary flycatcher and other birds for their reproduction. The coming and going of the birds in search of nectar results in efficient pollination year after year. The complexity of relationships increases where the limited number of predators are concerned. The forest's isolation has prevented it being conquered by carnivorous mammals or snakes. The only hunters that arrived here were birds, and there are not many of those. The Eurasian sparrowhawk has evolved into a subspecies that is a little smaller than its continental cousin. That said, it is just as good a hunter. Sparrowhawks hunt within the forest, tracking small birds that flit between the trees. Flycatchers, blackbirds, and blue tits are their usual snacks. This year, 4 eggs have hatched. Such a reduced population of birds in the laurel forest cannot support a large number of sparrowhawks. And bringing up 4 chicks every year is a very labor-intensive task. It's possible that not all of them will survive. On the island of Garachonai alone live about 1,000 species of invertebrates, the vast majority of them in the laurel forest. Land snails represent one of the highest proportions of endemic species in the Canaries. It is estimated that there are about 250 different species, of which about 80% are endemic to the archipelago. Glass snails, of which there are about 20 species, may look like slugs, but in fact they have a small, fragile shell visible on their backs. Glass snails cannot hide inside their shells like other snails do if the environment becomes dry, and so they can only live in damp and shady places, such as the laurel forest. The laurel forest is also home to another unique pigeon. The laurel pigeon eats fruit, seeds and buds like Bolly's pigeon, but prefers to make its nest in rocky areas near the forest. Of the birds that live in these mist-draped woods, blackbirds and the 2 endemic pigeons are especially important in the forest's continual propagation. This is because only they are large enough to be able to swallow the fleshy fruits of the trees and then regurgitate the seeds intact and ready to germinate. But all is not harmony in the laurel forest. Since rats arrived on the islands a little over a century ago, they have become a detrimental predator of the eggs of endemic bird species, especially the laurel pigeons with their nests on the cliffs. Nearly 75% of their eggs are consumed by the rats. The Canary Island buzzard shares the cliffs with the pigeons and, to some extent, is their ally. It is the only large predator on the island capable of eliminating the rats that now live here. The fledgling buzzards feed on the rats and also on birds and large lizards their parents find by patrolling the lower, warmer parts of the islands, a good distance from the laurel forest. Nearby, on the green swathed mountain, perched amidst the wet foliage of the laurel forest, the sparrowhawks have succeeded in raising all 4 of their chicks this year. Under the dense canopy and among the forest branches, shrouded in clouds, millions of drops of water are trapped by the mosses and lichens. It is merely the beginning of a complex chain of relationships that connects thousands of different species, many of them unique, that have, for more than 15 million years, lived in isolation in the middle of the vast ocean. The jungle, a synonym for mystery, furtiveness, and fear. An impenetrable place where the only creatures to live are strange, unknown, and terrible spirits. The denseness of the jungle is overwhelming. Giant trees block the light, and tormented bushes block the way. Vines climb up and hang down, leaves and thorns everywhere, streams and rivers impossible to cross. Footfalls like rumors or pursuits, observing eyes hidden in the foliage, shadows that appear and disappear. The navigators and explorers of the past were rendered speechless by the enigmas locked within the rainforests of Madagascar. And what disturbed them the most were the harrowing howls that pierced the damp evening air. Lemurs, spirits of the dead, wanderers in the fading light, scaring, tormenting any brave traveler that dare enter these enigmatic woodlands. Lying off the east coast of Africa, in the intertropical region just below the equator, is Madagascar, the 4th largest island on the planet. And not only is it one of the world's largest islands, it is also among the oldest. Isolated from the mainland for almost 150 million years, it is a very special place. Madagascar's remoteness has meant that this enormous territory is a unique natural laboratory in which most of the plants and animals are exclusive to the island. The rainforests found in the north and east of the island cling to the mountain ranges that rise parallel to the coast. In places, they can exceed 2,500 meters in altitude. Almost daily, clouds driven by easterly trade winds from the Indian Ocean drench the rainforests that climb up and inland. There is no other forest like this on the planet. About 80% of its plants are endemic and unique to this place. At first sight, it may seem like any other jungle, but here there are neither large predators nor poisonous snakes. They never arrived from the neighboring continents. Instead, the forests here are populated by strange, frightening beings of such numbers and variety, displaying such extreme relationships that it is hard to imagine. A scream accompanies the first rays of the sun, piercing the silence. It is joined by other voices, until soon it has become an impressive chorus. It is the population of Indri, or Babakoto, greeting the new day. The Indri repeat their song every morning at dawn. This is the only species of lemur that sings such songs, which serve for establishing territory and strengthening family ties. And their impressive chorus can be heard over 4 kilometers away. Madagascar is the lemur's native home, the only place on Earth where this group of primates, characterized by their prominent wet noses, are found in the wild. Today, there are known to be more than 100 species of lemur, most of them on the critically endangered list. But right now, these Indris do not seem worried by this fact, as they warm themselves in the morning sun before starting their day. Madagascar blue pigeons also shake off their drowsiness after a cool, wet night. These shy birds move quietly in small groups between the fronds of the jungle, looking for any of the wide range of fruit they eat by swallowing them whole. The pigeons know their territory well and visit the trees on which the fruit has already ripened. Below the canopy frequented by the pigeons, extraordinary ferns grow. These can sometimes reach heights in excess of 15 meters. The diversity of ferns of these forests is unique. Many of them look like they have come directly from ancient geological times, such as the Carboniferous period 360 million years ago. And in this mysterious, primitive-looking landscape, some animals seem perfectly at home. Frogs were among the first castaways to land on Madagascar. They were the only amphibians that managed to colonize the large island. It is estimated that there are now about 400 species of them, many yet still to be discovered. Reptiles were more successful, with snakes, lizards, chameleons and turtles all arriving here. Madagascar became their promised land, an earthly paradise, where they would diversify and conquer every corner of the island. Half of the chameleon species in the world are found only on Madagascar, including, at nearly 70 centimeters long, the world's largest species, the giant chameleon. Throughout their life, they hunt a great number of insects, but when they reach full size, they may even hunt small birds and mammals. Under constant threat from predators, potential prey have been forced to evolve impressive tactical camouflage to avoid being eaten. Madagascar's animals have the best disguises. There is the nightjar, which looks like a handful of dry leaves. And there are geckos, resembling nothing so much as living bark, branches, and stumps. So those who live here are the true masters of disguise, all sharing the same goal: to hide from the keen eyes of snakes and other carnivores. Sometimes it's best to leave, just in case. But for now, there is no danger. It is a group of brown lemurs foraging for food. Flowers are an occasional treat to be seized upon whenever available, and lemurs eat the flowers of at least 60 plant families. Smaller snakes provide no threat to the lemurs, but the Madagascan boa strikes terror into the hearts of almost all the animals of this jungle. Safe from any danger, under his mother's watchful eye, this young Indri plays. For now, he will not stray far. During the first 8 months of life, their relationship is very close. His mother is the primary caregiver, but father is never far away. Indris are monogamous, and partners form a strong bond that allows them to face danger together. They have detected a movement in the foliage. A boa is stalking the youngster. An alarm call warns the clan, and the little one takes refuge in his mother's lap. It's a good idea to get away as soon as possible. From 5 months old, young Indri travel on their mothers' backs. Moving at full speed, they make for safety. The jungle of Madagascar offers many quiet places to hide. Some of the most curious are the clusters of giant bamboo. This species grows so tall that its trunks bend, forming huge natural archways. At certain times of year, the giant bamboo may grow up to 4 centimeters a day. Its leaves and shoots contain cyanide, but the golden bamboo lemur can ingest them without any problems. In fact, the leaves of this plant make up 90% of this lemur's diet. They may consume an amount 12 times that which would be lethal for other mammals every day. The tiny Kalama chameleon is difficult to spot, except when it is in heat. When challenged by a rival, they will forget their signaling colors and measured movements. 2 females dispute a territory while a male looks on in surprise. There can only be one landlady of this tree. And the weaker of the 2 combatants prefers to surrender. But the territorial victor is in no mood yet for the male's amorous advances, and he must keep his distance until her mood changes before he tries to mate. The Indris are near. They do not travel far, only between 300 and 700 meters a day, depending on the season and the abundance of food. The jungle is not always rich in fruits, but there are always leaves, also highly prized by countless numbers of insects. Some bird species breed just after the rainy season, when invertebrates abound, providing them with a quick and nutritious food supply for their broods. Both sexes tirelessly take turns to feed their ravenous young. Teamwork makes this exhausting task possible. Just. It is now that the forest offers a multitude of fruits that brown lemurs are not slow to take advantage of. It has been shown that lemurs eat the fruit of at least 86 different species of native plants, a real seasonal pantry. Wild fig trees provide them with the most fruit. Brown lemurs are among the few animals who will take food, such as ripe fruit, from the ground. The jungle floor buzzes with life. And in the leaf litter, dwarf chameleons are barely perceptible, their camouflage helping them hide from such carnivores as the ring-tailed mongoose. Or the tenrec, a primitive and voracious insectivore that emerges from its burrow at dusk. This mammal is another species endemic to Madagascar. It roots around in the humus with its very long snout. A large part of its menu consists of worms, and it will enthusiastically consume dozens of them every day. All of these smaller animals, insects, chameleons, and tenrecs, may in their turn be hunted by the mongoose. Even the red rat, a decent-sized rodent, exclusive to these rainforests, will flee when this agile predator appears on the scene. For now, however, the mongoose is satisfied with a few crunchy insects. The Indri watch attentively from their lookout high in the branches, but have no cause for concern. Though the mongoose can easily climb to the top of the canopy, the Indri are too big a prey for it. The family of Indri has started its nightly search for a place to sleep at the top of the canopy, more than 30 meters above the ground. The strange, mysterious, menacing jungle of Madagascar, unique on planet Earth, is filled with the cries of the Indri once more, confirming their territories and keeping the family together. Their chilling laments once again shatter the quiet of the forest, a reminder to all who hear them of the legend of the specters in the jungle. In certain woodlands, some of the most impressive and stalwart of inhabitants can sometimes seem insignificant. Even despite their formidable calls, they're dwarfed by the overwhelming landscapes in which they live. The forests that stretch over some of the most outstanding mountain ranges in North America are home to a diverse range of wildlife. And the complex web that ties them together, the relationships between animals and the rocks, mountains, grasslands, and forests, can be hard to appreciate next to the magnitude and size of the trees that grow here. But, hidden in plain sight, the oldest creatures on Earth live here. The biggest, most massive, and tallest beings that ever lived on the face of the Earth. spread over the legendary American West. From the wide open plains of the Sierra Nevada to the Pacific coastline, an exceptionally rich coniferous woodland environment flourishes. The combination of warm coastal climate and the cold Pacific currents creates a uniquely rich ecosystem, evidence of which are the large concentrations of elephant seals and bird life. Elephant seals gather in huge numbers along the coast to form their breeding colonies. They sun themselves on the beach or play peacefully in the waves, waiting until the arrival of night signals it's time to go hunting fish. This benign, humid environment is perfect for the pines that teeter on the edge of cliffs that plunge into the sea. Torrey pines and bishop pines grow near the coast, serving as a common territory for both seafaring and more terrestrial birds. In this microclimate created by the ocean, magnificent coastal forests flourish. But these are merely a prologue to the wealth of woodlands that the rest of California has to offer. California, land of legends, where trees give meaning and personality to some of the most emblematic wild places on the North American continent. The diversity and wealth of conifers in these temperate latitudes is unsurpassed anywhere in the world. These pines have adapted to extremely varied environments, so this territory has a huge range of species. Inland California has several parallel mountain ranges that in places exceed 1,400 meters in altitude. And the Sierra Nevada, place of myth and legend, is its most important mountain range. Its peaks and slopes are home to some of the most densely populated forests on the planet. Ancient glaciers carved out towering valleys in places such as the inspiring Yosemite region. The forests of this national park give life to and protect a diverse range of flora and fauna. This is home, for example, to the wapiti, better known as the elk, the world's second largest deer, which can weigh up to 450 kilograms. The males, larger than the females by about 25%, spend most of the year hidden in the forest, feeding on leaves, buds, and tree bark. The elk's rutting season begins in autumn. It is only then that they emerge from the protection of the forest onto the broad meadows where they gather their harems. Their call can be heard at dusk and dawn, each male reaffirming his strength and challenging his rivals. While the elk are in heat, filling the atmosphere around the forests with their presence, black bears enter a frenzy of gathering supplies before winter sets in. They prefer to stay inside their bosky territories. Black bears are found in a diverse range of ecosystems, but their favorites are mountain forests. This bear roams the woods in search of a sweet delicacy. In the fall, the bushes of the scanty forest undergrowth drip with berries full of sugar, ideal for putting on some weight before the winter arrives. Black bears may ingest more than 20,000 calories a day. This becomes a substantial and essential fat reserve to help survive the winter. Although black bears are omnivorous, up to 75% of their diet is plant matter, the rest being made up of a variety of foods, including honey, carrion, insects such as grasshoppers, and fish such as trout. As the bears do not leave the forest, the elk easily avoid them. In any case, they are lost in the throes of courtship and mating in the meadows bordering the rivers. The males sniff each doe to see if she is ovulating. They must wait for the right time. Until then, the females will treat them with certain disdain. Occasionally, a female will even keep suckling her calf. At this time of year, the meadow is lush, providing the elk with the energy they need for the rut. The elk shares his nutritious territory with an antelope-like species called a pronghorn. This is a herbivore native to the Great Plains. During the summer and early fall, it eats non-stop, consuming between 4 and 7 kilos of grass a day. The pronghorn may skirt land around the Great Forest, but they will never venture into it. They prefer the open meadowland, their bodies having evolved to high-speed travel. When sprinting, they can reach speeds of 105 kilometers or 65 miles per hour. One of the pronghorn's few enemies is the coyote, which will hunt newborn calves when they're only a few days old. But in autumn, there's no danger, as they can all escape without difficulty. The coyote, which can survive in many different ecosystems, also prefers the grasslands for traveling. But right now, he's busy looking for other, less elusive animals. Coyotes spend a large part of the day hunting small rodents, such as shrews and voles, which make up most of their diet. The legendary mountains of Western California are crisscrossed with a complex river system that runs through plains, valleys, and forests. The water comes from melting snow that has fallen on the highest and most rugged parts of the Sierra. During the summer, the rivers attract elk looking for fresher pastures and for comfort during the hottest hours of the day. Within the abundant, dense forests growing around the rivers and on the slopes that rise to nearly 2,000 meters, reclusive species such as the white-tailed deer hide away. It is in this region of North America that the tallest species of trees on the planet thrive, all of them conifers. This is the territory of the ponderosa pine, the incense cedar, the white fir, and towering above them all, growing at an altitude of between 1,370 and 2,400 meters, the giant sequoia. Small white-tailed deer, the species of American deer that most favors the forest, weigh up to 160 kilos. But next to the redwoods, that is an utterly insignificant statistic. The Californian sequoia is the giant among giants. Not unreasonably, it has been defined as the most impressive living being. It can far exceed 100 meters and has the most massive volume for a living thing on the planet. The largest specimen is estimated to weigh over 2,000 tons. The giant sequoias lived their peak of dominance during the Cretaceous period. Today, they only exist in the wild in much reduced areas of California. They are also extraordinarily long-lived trees. Some of them are more than 3,000 years old. Most redwoods don't begin producing seeds until the relatively tender age of 70 years old. It is estimated that a mature giant sequoia produces 11,000 pine cones during its reproductive season, dispersing between 300,000 and 400,000 seeds per year. These seeds are an absolute delight for the various species of squirrel that live exclusively in these fairy tale forests. The squirrels are one way the redwoods spread their seeds, but the weather and soil conditions play far more significant roles. It is estimated that only 1 in 1,000 million seeds actually germinates. Squirrels are abundant in these conifer forests and have a great ecological importance, not only because of the number of seeds they consume, but also because of those they store by burying them, which later may germinate. Douglas squirrels make their own warehouses where they hide up to 18,000 pine cones. The number and diversity of squirrels attracts many small carnivores, such as this long-tailed weasel. The profuse California ecosystem is such that the pine forests continue to spread upwards, allowing new species to colonize the granite crags and cold and hostile heights above 3,000 meters. This is the subalpine forest, where the climate is colder, with a lot of snow during the long and icy winters. This is the territory of the white and lodgepole pines and the mountain fir. In the wildest, most rugged areas of the forest, herds of mouflon take refuge. This species is an indicator of the ecosystem's state of health, as it is very sensitive to alterations in its habitat. Its presence here indicates that these forests are good and healthy. The mouflons are well adapted to the rugged terrain, where they use the cover of the forest to hide from predators. They will also venture into the tall forests in autumn and winter to shelter from the harsh elements of the mountain heights. Females usually browse while walking, a strategy they have evolved to elude hunters and protect their young. The stockier and more powerful males will eat first and then lie down to rest. This allows them a more effective and relaxed digestive process, which results in their being bigger than the females. From the mountain ranges where the mouflon roam to the beaches where elephant seals lounge in the sun, the Californian west coast of the United States possesses some of the most impressive coniferous forests on the planet in terms of size and biological diversity. From the sea's edge to the alpine peaks at almost 3,000 meters, some of the planet's most stunning plant life, beating all records of size, height, and age, find their home in the forests of giants. There exists a forest that defies the imagination. A forest reigned over by thorns and the heat. A place of unforgiving, arid, and aggressive appearance. Unlike typically idyllic images of rainforests or jungles, this unique ecosystem seems designed to keep out any creature that dare come near. At first sight, it would appear to be a place where finding food or shelter would be impossible, where neither staying still nor moving on brings relief from the sharp prick of thorns, as long as nails and pointed as needles. Only the most sophisticated and malevolent imagination could devise a torture chamber as inhospitable as this. And yet, an implausible number of plants and animals are capable of surviving here. At the southern tip of Madagascar, a broad strip of dry territory, about 100 kilometers wide, extends along the south and west of the coast. The thorny forest. The thorny forest of Madagascar is one of the most unusual and inhospitable forest ecosystems on the planet. Or at least, that's how it seems. Yet, it is home to an extraordinary collection of animals and plants that have perfectly adapted to the heat and almost perpetual drought. Annual rainfall here barely reaches 1/3 of a litre per square metre. This world of thorns, where it seems impossible even to move, let alone live, is in fact a place of extraordinary biodiversity. "95% of the plants here exist nowhere else in the world." The fauna here is no less extraordinary, moving and living in this strange ecosystem, utterly indifferent to the fact that it bristles with thorns. Among the plants that make this forest such a special place, the strange, long Didieriaceae, known locally as octopus plants, are a highlight. Didieriaceae are a species of thorny plant, looking not unlike a cactus, although in fact their similarities end there. It is these plants that are most characteristic of the thorny forest landscape. Among the most striking inhabitants of these forests are this species of lemur, Sifaka, which, despite living in such a hot environment, have silky, thick coats. Sifakas seem determined to live like fakirs, sleeping on their beds of nails. The trees and shrubs they move among are armed with aggressive thorns. But the thick skin of their hands and feet and their dense fur perhaps offer them protection against scrapes and punctures. Added to the toughness of their skin, they are amazingly skilled jumpers and climbers. The thorns of this forest exist for two very specific reasons. They are in fact leaves that have evolved to have as little surface area as possible in order to conserve water. They are also a defensive mechanism to dissuade animals from eating them, as they do with the branches and succulent, water-retaining leaves of other plants. But for the savannas, it is clear that these preventative measures are of little use. The vegetation of the thorny forest has evolved other extreme adaptations to cope with the aridity of the region, such as thick and succulent trunks, branches and leaves, and waxy or hairy bark. In the early morning, when the air is still cool, almost all the fauna sets about eating. Small troops of savannas, comprising around a dozen individuals, have a breakfast of the forest's tenderest leaves. Within a couple of months, these leaves will have started to dry out. The uncomfortable, prickly labyrinth is also ideal territory for some tortoises, whose shell and thick scales keep them from harm. The undergrowth is home to the radiated tortoise, another species that is unique to this forest. Large males can weigh 20 kilos or more and live for nearly 100 years. Perhaps one of the secrets to their longevity is their strictly herbivorous diet. And now, after the rains, it's the best time to tuck into some juicy leaves. Succulent fruit and plants make up 90% of its diet. At the same time, taking advantage of the blessed water from the rains, fruit grows and matures. The flowering season in the thorny forest is very brief, so it is vital for animals to synchronize with it to take maximum advantage of the plethora of resources. While the savannas enjoy a meal of sweet fruits, the radiated turtles embark on their clumsily violent mating ritual. A male pursues a female until the latter complainingly comes to a halt. In order to access her sexual organs, he strikes her relentlessly. an act some onlookers no doubt find utterly bewildering. The tenacity and violence of the assault may even break the female's shell. The sounds of the turtle's somewhat brutal lovemaking echo around the thorny forest where some unique trees grow. Baobab trees, with their gigantic trunks that act as water-storing barrels, thrive in this arid environment. Madagascar's dry region is home to 6 of the planet's 8 existing species of baobab. They are some of the most striking and peculiar trees on Earth. The dry season can last between 9 and 11 months, so they must exploit the short rainy season to the full if they are to produce flowers and leaves. Time is against them. Their high branches are the perfect place for an aerial city. The Sakalava weaver builds its nests by braiding vegetable fibers that it collects from the thorny forest. And the cleverly designed entrance of the nest is protection against potential predators. Baobabs create an entire world in their environs, and that even includes the ground. Eye-catching, three-eyed lizards rummage among the old fruit of the baobab. The dark scales on their nape imitate an ever-watchful third eye. It is their breeding season too, so they mark their territory by a display of head shaking. Down on the ground, amazing things can be discovered. The baby sifaka is fascinated by the three-eyed lizard's apparently impossible speed. But speed is not always enough to keep you safe. This snake is just as quick as the lizard. And in this case, its third eye proves to be a striking but useless adornment. It is swallowed almost as quickly as it is caught. This lizard will provide the snake with food for a week. In every niche, from the tops of the octopus plants more than 10 meters above ground, to the ground itself, covered with leaf litter, is occupied by the bizarrest neighbors. One of the strangest is the Madagascar nightjar, whose plumage makes it appear not unlike a handful of dry leaves. Toward evening, the small sifaka has to move with his troop. They've decided to come down to ground level to set off on a journey. The first ones down scare the nightjar, who hides a treasure beneath her camouflage. Sifakas will travel through the forest up to 1 kilometer a day, and occasionally they do so by leaping across the forest floor, using their arms for balance. The alarmed nightjar moves away from her chicks, pretending to have a broken wing. She must draw attention away from her chicks at all costs. Once they are alone again, the nightjar returns to her chicks and hides them once more under her warm, dissimulating plumage. The sifakas move on without the slightest intention of harm. Most likely they didn't even see the birds, so intent are they on finding food for dinner before dark falls. They don't see the chameleon either. Like the nightjar, he boasts some splendid camouflage. It might appear that the thorns would not pose any inconvenience to these small reptiles. But sometimes their intended meal holds on tight to the spines, and the chameleon cannot manage to get its prey into its mouth. The sifakas have found a juicy dish for dinner. Some euphobias in the thorny forest can reach remarkable heights. To prevent loss of water, they have barely any leaves, and it is their stems that are responsible for photosynthesis. In place of protective thorns, they have an extremely caustic latex, which irritates animals' mucous membranes and skin. But the sifakas are perfectly adapted to this environment and the plants found there, and the latex has no effect on them. Very few lemurs can take advantage of this milky and nutritious resource offered by the special thorny forest. It's clear that the beings that make up this apparently hostile ecosystem have an extraordinary relationship with each other. It is a unique forest, populated by creatures that have adapted to survive among sharp thorns and spines, toxic juices, and extreme aridity. And yet, Despite these disadvantages, the thorny forest of Madagascar boasts a unique wildlife found nowhere else on Earth.